So we're going to start with a little intro about what we're talking about today. And then we're going to get on the floor for a couple minutes or whatever. You can totally camera off for that. You can definitely mute yourself and you'll see why. And then we're going to come back into basically just me talking and training on this. So yes, then if you go like headphones and you're tidying up and stuff, that's totally cool. But first, the first few minutes, stay with me. So we're talking about reparenting today. And so does anyone have any idea what that term means? Chelsea's like a little bit. Jamie's like, no. Okay, amazing. Love it. You'll just believe everything I say. That's perfect. Just kidding. So reparenting is a concept that's really commonly used in psychoanalysis and in therapy. There are forms of psychology and psychoanalysis and counseling and therapy. One of them is called, Roberta says, inner child work. Yes, so inner child work is part of reparenting, or reparenting is a tool that you do kind of simultaneously with inner child work, which is visiting and revisiting your inner child. So, and I do that. Any of you who've done one-on-ones with me, usually we've done some inner child stuff. We've gone there, so you get it. So reparenting is exactly what it sounds like. Reparenting our inner child, our younger self, in the way that perhaps they did not receive parenting initially. And I always want to say, like, this is no shade to any of our parents. They're all just doing the best that they could with the resources that they have, and like nobody's perfect. And if you are a parent listening to this conversation, at some point you will be like, oh my God, like, how am I going to mess up my kids? And you are, like, you are for sure, because again, we're not perfect. Like, it's going to happen. Hi, Tay. So what we're talking about today is reparenting yourself so that you can be in the best position to take sweet care of yourself and everyone around you, whether you have children or not. So what I want you to do, maybe we'll go, you can leave your camera on for sure, but we're going to go on the floor and I'll go there in a minute. We're only going to be there for a couple minutes. But what I want you to do is I want you to bring to mind a situation, probably recently if you can, where you felt like having a tantrum, like you were angry and you didn't know how to get it out, and you were like, F this, F them, and you know, logically, your wise self is like, this doesn't make any sense. Like, maybe you're even like, this reaction is bigger than the situation. Can anyone relate to that? Doing that and being like, what am I doing? Right? But it's like in the moment, you're like, Or sometimes we can be like petulant, right? Is this Genantic? Are you Genantic? I think you are. No. Who's this? Who does? Jen W. Okay, thank you. Too many Jens. Okay, hi Jen, welcome. Or we can be like a petulant child, right? Like, and part of reparenting is validating those feelings. So I will share just to help you, like, getting examples here. And at first you might be like, I don't do that. But then as you start to learn what it is, you will feel it, like you'll get it. So for example, I have a thing with my birthday. Okay, so my birthday is coming up. I thought that I don't like it. I don't have a problem getting older, but I grew up like without other children. Like, I'm an only child. I grew up legit in the bush, like more so than Fort Nelson, like legit in the bush with no electricity and no children. Okay. So I never really had like birthday parties. And then I remember when we finally moved like to town, I was in like grade 6 or 7. I wanted this like child's birthday party that I never had. So I planned all these like little kid games, and all my friends were like, this is so dumb. Like, what's wrong with you? So then I kind of just gave up on it. And so ever since then, I have this like, I want to have this like birthday experience, but I don't want people to think that it's like stupid. And so like, I have like an inside tantrum probably like every year, because it's like, meh, no matter what I do, like, meh. And it's just like little Anne is just like, I just wanted the party with like the donkey, and I had it like once, but you see what I'm saying? Like, that's an example where on your birthday, you're like, this doesn't make any sense. Like, I'm being crazy. My life is good. But inside, it's like little you has something to say about it that probably like was not validated, or you didn't know how to express it, or someone was like, chill out, you're fine. You see what I'm saying? So I'm hoping you can think of an example recently where you were kind of like, meh, and you either felt petulant or you wanted to have a tantrum, or even you're just angry and didn't know how to express it. Can you bring something like that to your brain? Yeah. Or maybe it's old. Okay. Okay. So now what I want you to do, I got you all muted. If you have a yoga mat or you're near your bed or something, I want you to lie down on the floor or on your whatever. And we're going to do a breath first, and then I'm going to let you have a little tantrum, and I will do it with you, but it's hard for me to like talk and move at the same time. And you'll only be down here for like a couple of minutes. Oh, Jenna, your doggy is so cute. Oh, so cute. Okay. Okay. So first, I want you to extend your arms and legs up towards the ceiling. Yeah. And I want you to start to shake them, like shake them out. I always flick my rings off when I do this. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Like let that baby jiggle, shake it. Like you're flicking water off your hands. Take a break anytime you need, but we're going to be doing this for a while. Good. And now I want you to close your eyes. And I want you to like throw that tantrum, like bring into your body the thing that happened that made you so angry that you're like, I don't deserve this. Why is this happening to me? Where's my party? Where's my cake? Like whatever. Why didn't I get this? Why are they doing that to me? I just want to be seen. And I want you to like let it out. Like if you want to pound the ground, you can kick the ground, you can like scream. You guys are muted. In fact, I encourage it, especially because you guys are muted. Like let it out. Your feelings are not too big for this space right now, virtually anyways. Your feelings are not too big for me to handle or for this group to handle. Shake, 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 shake. I want you to keep shaking, whether it feels better or it feels worse. I want you to keep shaking through it and like see that tantrum through. More noise if you have noise. Let it out. And now keep shaking, but I want you to feel what you feel in your body. You probably feel heat. You probably feel movement. You probably feel something. And honestly, when it feels right, I want you to keep your arms and legs up, but let them become still. Go as long as you need. Keep your arms and legs up. Feel that tingle. Do you feel that tingle in your hands, in your arms, and the heat in your body? And I'm going to get you to take a few breaths. So if it feels good to keep arms and legs up, you can, or you can put your feet back on the floor. We're going to do an F breath. So stay lying down. I'll talk you right through it. You may have been here before when we did a VU breath. This is like that, but I think it's better for anger. It's an F breath. So this is what's going to happen. Just listen first. You're going to inhale through your nose and you're going to say F as you exhale. Be a little spitty. Okay, I want you to do that 3 times. So close eyes, breathe in from the tip of your nose into your belly, out your mouth. Eyes relaxed. Again, inhale through your nose. Exhale. Breathe in through your nose. Exhale. And then just breathe normally. Relax your jaw. Remind yourself, in this moment, you are safe and you're safe to express any feelings that come up. Totally valid. And if you're quite comfortable, thank you very much. You can just like stay where you are. I'm going to start talking about the reparenting stuff. And as you come back to your device, I would just love for you to take your time in the chat where you're at 1 to 10. And probably at some point we can talk about what that felt like, but I don't want to rush you up off the floor. So I'm just going to start yapping your ear off about reparenting yourself. So what we just did is literally an example of reparenting yourself, allowing yourself to have the tantrum that you want to have, giving yourself space for the emotions that you have that are maybe big or uncomfortable, and being like, okay with it. That's an example of reparenting yourself. So in this process, and I also love, we have a couple new clients starting, and I intentionally kind of like left them out of this conversation because you need some self-awareness, I think, to be ready to reparent yourself. And you guys all have that. So there will be a lot of aha moments and awakenings throughout the process. And really, it's just like taking care of yourself. And we gain insight through suffering. And if you know what that means, you really know, right? Like, we learn from those things that are hard when we are uncomfortable. How much insight have you all gained just by being here, right? And having to do uncomfortable things. I mean, obviously this program is called Muscles and Mindset, but I just don't even know how there is a transformation or a fitness program without a mindset piece, because you all have to show up and do so much inner work to do the outer work and to do the physical work. Like, you are gaining insight through all of this, being held accountable, being vulnerable, reaching out, doing weird shit like I just asked you to do on the floor, right? Like, it's so much more than just doing the workouts and eating the things. And I mean, spiritual awakening is like a big term, but there is actually, and I don't know, to be honest with you, this is a research study that I did read, but how they like quantified spiritual awakening, I don't know. I'm guessing it's like some form of reparenting. But basically they did the electrodes on the brain. And after people had some big like aha moment, psychological aha moment or spiritual awakening, the same neural pathways lit up as are active in depression. So researchers are saying this is two sides of the same coin. And this is what I mean, that we gain insight through suffering. So you might be like, why would I want to do that? That sounds terrible. Make me feel depressed. Because you gain insight. It's the same as like doing an uncomfortable workout, because the result is more valuable than the discomfort of you doing the thing. You guys have all done that, every single one of you. So I just want you to raise your hand or put in the chat if you have greater self-awareness now than before you started this program. And that could be as a result of like, maybe you're in therapy, but would you not agree that you are more self-aware now? Yeah, Krista, most definitely. Yes, beautiful. So I think it's fair to say you were either living less consciously or unconsciously before. And this is the same as like, if we compare it to fitness, we always use this like in massage therapy, and Chelsea, maybe you can relate, but it's like the person is sedentary and then they start moving and they're like, now my body hurts because like I'm working out. And it's like, no, it's because before you felt nothing. You were numb, right? And now you're feeling something. It's just not numb. Yeah. Chelsea's like, totally. So this is the same thing here, right? So before, I'm not saying you guys were like completely not self-aware and unconscious, but you were probably less self-aware. And so now things might be uncomfortable and they might be painful and things might give you anxiety that didn't before. And I know it feels scary, but it's like you're getting insight, you're getting somewhere. Whereas if you don't have that self-awareness, you're just staying the same. And so that's why I'm saying you have to be ready for this. I'm not going to throw a new person into this conversation. And so if you're not ready for this conversation today, this won't land, and that's totally fine. But if you are ready, you will begin to see your anxiety and big feelings as messengers rather than something to avoid or repress. And I have had these conversations with lots of you, right? Can you relate to that? That I think people previously, even me not that long ago, was like, why is my brain doing this to me? And it's like, oh, maybe it's not actually doing it to me. It's doing it for me to show me something. So back to the reparenting bit. For a child to have healthy development, depends on their needs being met, right? That's pretty much it. So when we're in a state of dependence, ergo, we depend on an adult, we depend on our parent figures and the family unit as a whole to provide us with physical, emotional, and spiritual nourishment. And if you're not comfortable with the term spiritual, it just means like whatever you want it to mean. So if you believe in God or the universe or like ghosts, angels, whatever you believe in that is of support to you. And so children, humans, adults, deeply desire to be seen, heard, and authentically expressed, to simply just be us. And yet all of us, probably at some point, were told that it was not okay or it was not safe to be seen, heard, and authentically expressed, right? Either because our feelings were invalidated as a woman or a mom, we were told like, you can't feel that way, you can't do that thing, right? It happens as a career person. So when we, as a child, Krista says, I was able to connect with my physical quadrant like never before, not ever realizing, like just now, Krista, do you mean? Or like in general?
Through this program.
Oh, yes. Yay. I know. I'm so proud of you. Not ever realizing how that would allow me to connect with, other facets in deeper ways. Yeah. Thank you for saying that. I think that's totally true. It's such a gateway. Fitness is a gateway drug to personal development. So as a child, when we experience our parent figures engaging in supportive behaviors, we learn that it's safe to express our needs and reach out to other people for help, right? So as a child, we have the tantrum and our parent or figure is just there for us, totally comfortable with our tantruming and our yelling. Then we're like, okay, it's safe to express these feelings. I'm still loved. I'm going to be okay. I can ask this person for help. When we have the tantrum as a child, and probably now still as an adult, and people tell us to be quiet, we're being dramatic, to shut up, like stop moving, we learn that it's not safe to express those needs. Those feelings are too big. And then we learn to not express them later in life. And this is because most adults, I'm sure we can all attest, they didn't learn how to do it, right? They didn't learn how to meet those needs because of the generations before them, let alone another person's, like being you, the child. And they therefore passed on their own unresolved traumas and the coping strategies that they learned to you as a child. So, and this is, again, no shame. Even well-intentioned parent figures don't always give us what serves us, right? And if you are a parent, you know, like, I know everyone in here who's a mom, like, has good intentions, obviously, and we're still not always perfect, and we have those coping strategies and we have those limitations. So if you're in here and you're a parent, I need you to hear this. Meeting all of someone's varied and unique needs all the time is impossible. Okay, so like meeting another human, and that's if you have one other human. Imagine having a bunch of them, right? It's impossible to meet someone else's varied and unique needs all the time. And that being said, if you lived with an emotionally immature parent figure, and emotional maturity is something we could talk about another day, your needs were likely routinely unmet or dismissed. In the example that I just gave, having the tantrum, you needed something, you needed a hug, you needed like validation, you needed safety. It was dismissed, or maybe sometimes, all the time. And emotional immaturity in us, in our parent figures, is from a lack of emotional resilience, an inability to process emotions. I didn't know how to feel an emotion like a few years ago. And I would say most people who I coach don't have a clue how to feel an emotion. Like, they're like, I don't know what you're talking about. I always tell this story, if you guys are ready for a little story, just to validate like how hard it is. The very first time in my life that I went to a counselor, she had a free first session. That should have been a red flag. She had a free first session in like downtown Langley. I went to this counseling, had never been in therapy before. And she like gets me going, gets me up, like not she gets me upset, I got upset because of what we were talking about. And then she told me to feel the emotion, which I might tell you guys to do now, but with context. I had no context. I didn't have a clue what she's talking about. And then she just left me there for like several minutes, like just sitting on the couch being like, feel the emotion. I had a fucking clue what she's talking about. I was like, this is a giant waste of my time because I had no idea how to process an emotion or even feel an emotion. Can you guys relate to that? Either now or like previously, like having no clue how to feel. And that's why I always ask you guys to name your feelings, right? Because it's helpful. Yeah, so totally valid if this was not something that you were modeled or taught. Yes, always been great at talking about feelings. You, Jen, you've always been great. You are great about talking about feelings. Are you great at talking? Oh, I don't understand that statement. Yeah, good, love it. Jen, I'm curious, were you always supported in that though? Like growing up in talking about your feelings, if that's something you're good at now? I'm curious.
Oh no, we didn't talk about feelings.
Okay. So how'd you get here being okay talking about it?
Oh, about 2 years ago. I'm 51 years old and 49 years. I'm like, oh, like even as I give you a point, like as an educator for 25 years, we had counselors come and tell us these are blue emotions, these are yellow emotions, these are green emotions, and these are red emotions. And some of those emotions were considered not great emotions. And how do you talk about those? So they didn't teach us how to do that. And we definitely not talk about emotions when we were younger. Absolutely not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's common. Yeah, thank you very much for sharing that. And Anna says, I was so angry at myself because I thought therapy would help me, but I felt more sad and I meant so much more work on my emotions, bonds, and surroundings. I know that is a thing about therapy and honestly about coaching is like, it kind of is like a proliferation system where you dig one thing out from under the bed and it's like, oh, there's a new thing to dig out from under the bed. It can be a little bit like that.
Hi, sorry to interrupt, but even though at that time, in fact, I told my mom because so I'm from India and it's still such a big taboo to go to a therapist. And it was COVID lockdown. I was stuck with my parents and I said, listen, you know what? You guys cannot handle me. I need therapy. So I asked around and I found one counselor online. She did, she made me do a lot of work. And like I said, I expected to feel good at least in the second session. But I think the second, third, fourth, maybe fifth session, I was just crying because I was just speaking with her and she's making me, dig all of that internal things and the nuances that I had. All sorts of relationships, including my mother, including my like my father, my sister, and then my ex-husband. So much going on in my mind. And I was like, I don't even feel like whether I'm doing it right. But she was like, no, this is what it is. And trust me, now done that. So I feel I remind myself, I did make notes and I remind myself some days to check in and see how I'm feeling because my current situation and life has changed so drastically. So yes, I would say therapy is a blessing. Everyone should get it, and especially in countries where it's still a taboo, they should have it. They should have access to it also. So yeah, I wanted to share that.
Yes, thank you for sharing that. I'm so glad that you went through that. And it sounds like you are too, but at the time it doesn't feel good, right? And so, and yeah, that's so wonderful. And yes, therapy, coaching can both feel that way. It doesn't feel good at the time, but like Anna said, it's like we get insight through the suffering, right? So processing emotions, communicating boundaries, that's another one. So even like Anna said, a taboo is a taboo like for someone else. It doesn't have to be a taboo for you, right? Which I think you're a beautiful example of, Anna. And so she set that boundary and this is what I'm doing and it's okay that you're not into it. But someone with some emotional immaturity will feel the need to put their own beliefs, yes, no, black and white, this is the way it is, their boundaries on to you, right? And so just because they, didn't learn how to communicate boundaries, how to uphold boundaries, and how to return their nervous system to balance, which is something that I've started talking a lot with you guys about. So an emotionally immature parent figure might, you know, when you were a child or even an adult, throw tantrums, act selfishly, act defensively. Like the defensive one, you all, like, we have conversations about this all the time, right? With like food. Our, you know, people in our circle can take it really personally when we want to eat differently or parent differently or travel differently. Like, and it's painful because they're defensive. And that's where we have to learn to uphold our own boundary and be okay with our own decisions. It's not about you, it's about them. But can you not relate to the whole family unit revolving around their moods, right? And when you're a child, you probably live in the same household. And then it's like very codependent because everybody kind of regulates to the low, like I would say like the weakest link, right? The most emotionally immature person who doesn't know how to control their emotions, usually everyone kind of regulates to their mood. And this is where we get a lot of our SPBs from. So if you've heard me say that before, SPBs are your self-protective behaviors, your hiding and hustling behaviors. I have lists, I can share them with you guys, but this is like binge eating, overeating, over-exercising, shopping, alcohol, affairs, ghosting me, all those things, right? Those are all self-protective behaviors. They're not there to punish you. They're there because you learned this coping strategy at some time. And the way to move forward is to realize that you can be the wise parent that you didn't have at the time. Enter reparenting. This is teaching yourself to relearn how to meet the unmet needs of your inner child through conscious daily action and awareness. It's a very common framework, as I mentioned, used in psychoanalysis and therapy, and they can be very helpful supports, but no one knows you like you do, right? And so it is my job. I can share this information with you, and you know, I'm not a psychologist, but I can teach you to teach yourself how to implement it and take care of yourself. That's really like what we can do here. Because it's your responsibility to gather the tools that you need to meet your own needs. And you guys have all done that because you're all here. So you know no one's coming to save you. You had to do this yourself. And so when we begin the reparenting process, we begin by learning how to identify our emotional, physical, and spiritual needs. I'm so glad that Carissa gave that example where her gateway was the physical piece, right? So she was feeling some kind of way. She came here and she was able to connect with her physical self first, like never before, and then more deeply, emotionally, mentally, and spiritually. That's super common. That's the work you're doing here. So then I want you to practice, which you're mostly already doing, your SPBs, your self-protective behaviors, the things that you do to attempt to get your needs met. So for example, a tantrum. So if you are a person who don't always, like, I just want to say, if you have a partner, your partner experiences this, like is the brunt of this, probably more than anyone else, because you feel safe, right? If you feel safe with your partner or your best friend, or even your own like adult parents still, you will still like try to get your needs met by them. So for example, oh my gosh, I saw this reel yesterday. I can share it with you guys, but it was like this woman sitting in her kitchen crying and wearing sunglasses and eating a muffin. And it was like, I want my husband to know that I'm not mad at him. All my clothes look stupid and I'm hungry and cold and like just like all the things that and I'm on my period and like basically wah, right? Her inner child is like wah, but then our partner is like, what is happening? Because we're doing all these things to try to get our needs met. We might be like icing them out because we want them to respond. We might be like acting out because we want some kind of need met. We might be eating because we want comfort. Like these are just the things that we're doing, trying to meet our own needs, and then they become habits. And what I would hear, especially in this group of high achievers, is lots of inner critic, right? So so wonderful that you are all high achievers, and like bless our parents for that. But sometimes we get there because our parents were like highly critical and we felt there was no other option. And then we adopt that critical inner parent voice, right? And this is what I hear from you guys on day one. It dissipates for sure. But this is when you guys are like, I'm just lazy. I just need to get my shit together. Like, I'm not, and I just like, I need a schedule. I'm not doing enough. Like you guys all said these things day one, and like now you know better, right? But that's probably your critical inner parent just being like be perfect, or like shit's gonna go sideways. And then, oh, we listen to that. We deny our own feelings and realities. We reject our own needs, and we choose the needs of others over our own. And we often buy into the story that is more important because that is what we learned. Guilt and shame replace our intuitive inner voices. JC and I just had a conversation about this yesterday. I don't know if you're willing to share, JC, but she's not feeling well. But we had a conversation about this, but I see it in everyone. And the reparenting process looks different for everyone, right? So yeah, the inner critic is very common, but generally we want to quiet our inner critic and embrace compassion and self-respect. Jen says, how about parents and grandparents unloading their fears and worries on us? Yes, absolutely. So critical inner parent, fearful inner parent, right? Anyone who had that parent who was like, be careful. Oh, don't do that. Or I'll just say, because Jen also knows this person. We have a mutual acquaintance who was like terrified of traveling well into her 30s because her parents were like, oh, like you can't like travel alone, and like we don't, like women don't do that and whatever. Like, well, it's not yours, but you're sure gonna learn it if your parents are just like, oh. Chelsea said, I've already had 3 aha moments from this conversation. Yes, I would love to hear what they are, Chelsea. And if you don't go to university, you won't be successful. Yeah. You know what? I'm just going to say I'm having a hard time with that one because I grew up with that. And my husband is very like, go to trade school, like, don't go to Europe. And I'm like, but she has to, okay, right. That's not about me. So yes, Jen, and I'm working on that one, just like keeping my mouth shut. Yes. Okay. So with the help of your wise inner parent, that is you can now learn how to validate your reality and your feelings by witnessing them, rather than instinctually judging or ignoring them. Can anyone think of an example of a feeling that you had recently that your inner voice was like, that's not real, tried to invalidate it, tell you it wasn't important? Can anyone think of an example? Here, I'll give you one that I can guarantee every single one of you has had. I'm tired and I want to have a nap. Oh, naps are for lazy people. Yeah, have you had that thought? That's it, right? That's you judging and or ignoring your own instinct. And over time, it just becomes a habit. I'm hungry. Oh, being hungry is bad. Hungry people are fat, whatever. And then we learn to, nope, not hungry anymore. You lose your hunger cues. Oh, I'm feeling kind of full. Nope, we finish the plate, right? And then that's what you do. It becomes a habit. Chelsea says, validating that going away and spending time with just me is worth it and not selfish or stupid. Yes, because who gets to decide if it's selfish or stupid? You can hear someone else say that and take it on as yours, or you can decide for yourself. 100%. So when you become your own wise inner parent and you cultivate acceptance while honoring the needs of your inner child, just to be seen, just to be heard, to be valued for the authentic parts of yourself, you become the priority. It then becomes safe, exactly like Chelsea's example. It becomes safe to take care of yourself because you're being seen, heard, and valued. You're not living by someone else's like rule book or judgments. And so to develop this wise inner parent, you got to learn how to trust yourself. You guys know that I'm big on this as well. Probably for the first time in your life. And I've worked on this a lot myself recently, and you can rebuild this trust by setting small promises for yourself to engage in daily acts of self-care and following through. Oh my God, like habits in this program that you are checking off, right? You're all doing it. You're all doing that. Do you not have more confidence and self-trust in yourself now than you did previously? And it's not because you're ticking the box because I give you a gold star. It's because you are ticking the box and then being like, oh, I did that. Oh, I did that. I can do that again. I can do more. Oh my gosh, you guys, in this push-up challenge, you're blowing us away. I think you're blowing yourselves away too, because it's not really about the push-ups, but Like Anna was like, oh my gosh, I like did all these push-ups. I had no idea, right? You're setting a bar for yourself, engaging in it consistently, and then following through. And that builds confidence and you learn to trust yourself again. And so if you're struggling with that, if you're struggling to, do what you tell yourself you're going to do, speak kindly to yourself as if you were dealing with a child who's in pain, right? Would you be like, suck it up, you're fine? You may have, and no shame, but I would like you to be kinder to yourself and think of it more like, oh, what can I do for myself in this moment? I'm struggling right now. I'm struggling to do my workouts, every week. I'm struggling to replace my snacking with breath work or whatever. What can I do for myself in this moment? I've talked to a couple of you recently about scrolling habit, totally get it. But it's like you're seeking something else, whether it's food, scrolling on your phone, usually you're seeking connection. Food, often we are seeking comfort, or alcohol, usually we're seeking like some kind of numbing or some kind of relaxation. So can you start to ask yourself, what can I do for myself in this moment instead? What am I really looking for? Because it's probably not that. And then the more you do that, it will become a more automatic response to the world around you. And then you reconnect to your intuition. Okay, so I'm seeing, how are you guys doing? You doing good? Okay, do you have questions? Because then I'm going to wrap through these 4 pillars. You good? Awesome. Awesome. Okay, so these 4 pillars are from How to Do the Work by Dr. Nicole LePera, but then I'm going to like tie them back to fitness and nutrition and y'all. So the first pillar in terms of reparenting yourself is something that we talk about a lot here, which is emotional regulation, which we were talking about earlier with emotional regulation, which is the ability to cope with emotions and stress in a flexible way and do it via many of the practices that you probably already know by now, like deep belly breathing, the somatic thing we did on the floor, the F breath I just gave you. I've done tapping with you guys before. Yoga, noticing patterns, right? Which I think comes out a lot in your check-ins, and witnessing changes in your body without judgment. Oh, I feel like anxious when I'm around this person. I'll give you like the dumbest, it's not dumb, but I don't know when, like a couple years ago, I started having a bath before bed every single night. And I was like, oh, if I like put my phone away and have a bath and then get into bed, I actually feel like going to sleep. Like it seems so obvious, but I had to feel it in my body and then witness the change in my state without judging it. So if you are ready to reparent yourself, you'll probably realize that you would benefit from engaging more consistently with the nervous system regulation tools that I've taught you. So if you're having aha moments, this is making sense to you, it might be a sign to pull those tools out a little bit more frequently. So using your breath, I've given you guys all kinds of different tools. If you've been here for the AOL, allowing, observing, and then loving on yourself, journaling, whatever your practice is. Second pillar is loving discipline. Funny story about this page is I wrote a post or a reel or something like for the general audience about this a couple weeks ago. And then I was like, this is super boring for normal people and makes no sense because the general population doesn't have a freaking clue what I'm talking about, but you guys do, because loving discipline is part of reparenting because it involves creating boundaries with yourself that are maintained over time. But that's like, people don't want to do that. That doesn't sound sexy, but it is integral to healing, making progress, moving forward, and it helps you to show up for yourself. So I really aim for this to be the sweet spot that you guys meet in terms of fitness and nutrition. You need a structure. I'm not going to fully let you off the hook. And yet I really think you have to be loving with yourself and flexible. Like I always say, we have goals, we have a plan, the plan is flexible. So yes, we need a structure. You need to create a routine, make daily promises to yourself. Successful people have a structure. That's just it. I don't care. Like you need some kind of structure. But many of us were raised with shame-based perceptions involving like discipline, where discipline had a negative connotation, right? Even now, I just realized this recently, like in having a child, and you're like, do I discipline? Like, is isn't discipline bad? I don't know. It's like, do you need it? But for us, probably it was like, oh, you get disciplined when you're bad, or you get punished. Or in the fitness industry, it's like can be very rigid. It's like it has to be like very rigid discipline, like more is no pain, no gain, like restrict, blah, 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 blah. But discipline actually, like, let's rework it to be a bit more loving as the opposite of betraying yourself. So you fall outside of your discipline. Yeah, it's a little bit of a betrayal as to what you said you were going to do today or this week or whatever. And we still love you. You're still safe, right? You're not in trouble. Loving discipline is making a new habit and then proving to yourself that you are worth showing up for. And so Chelsea, again, thank you for that beautiful example. Proving to yourself, like, I'm so glad Chelsea's going away for 2 nights by herself. First time ever, yes. But I think you have to do it. You have to start to prove to yourself that you are worth it, because this builds a deep sense of confidence, resilience, and I can actually rely on me. The act of loving discipline cultivates routine with compassion and flexibility. We have a plan, the plan is flexible. So your promises can be small. These are all real habits. Some of you have having your water before your coffee, flossing your teeth every night, journaling for 5 minutes, washing your face. That's loving discipline for sure. The key is just to do it consistently and build up the trust that you will consistently show up for yourself. You can depend on yourself no matter what. For many of you who are parents, this is getting up before your kids and not like spending that time on your phone, but doing something for you and showing yourself that you can. So how does one make discipline or this structure loving? Well, many people fail because their boundaries of what they allow themselves are too rigid. Can you guys relate to that? Many of you did that before you came here, right? You have super rigid boundaries and it was just like not sustainable, maybe not enjoyable, probably not enjoyable. And I think we see that a lot in fitness and nutrition. There's no room for flexibility. There's no room for mistakes. There's no room for life. So this can result in destructive, rebellious, or self-sabotaging patterns. It is human to eat when you're hungry and want to take a nap when you're tired. We already talked about that one. But we tell ourselves that those things are bad or lazy. And those are just judgments. That is not a fact that can be held up in a court of law. So you can change it. Hunger is also not an emergency. So if you are hungry, like you're not going to die in the next couple of hours, you're going to be okay. But tapping into your intuition is how you will know the difference. And there will be days that you want to lie in bed all day, you want to drink the wine and eat the cookies and not wash your face, and that is okay. It's what you do normally, what you do most of the time, and is that moving the dial forward towards who you desire to be? So if you develop confidence over time via loving discipline, you know that you can take a break and the habit, the ritual will still be there to return to. It won't fall apart. But in the beginning, you need that structure, right? So I say that to a lot of you about your workouts and stuff. Trish, we just had this conversation last week, right? Because Trish is going to, you're going to Wisconsin, but she also had a deload week the other day. So sometimes, you know, when you become a consistent exerciser, you actually need a deload week, but most people don't need that because most people are not consistent. So after a certain time of consistency, you actually need a week off. We're not going to give you a week off of fitness in your first month because your normal was to not work out at all. So you're not going to have the confidence to take a deload week and then continue on. But after a few months of consistency, your body and your system are like, oh yeah, this is normal. I'm just going to not work out for a week and then I'm going to work out for a week and it's going to be fine. But you do need some rigid, loving discipline first. Third pillar is self-care. I love talking about self-care. And I feel like this phrase, like I kind of stopped using it for a while because I feel like it got a little overdone. Like it was just about bubble baths and YOLO. It's kind of been commodified, right? As like to sell things, quite honestly. But really true self-care is supporting your needs and valuing your worth. So it is Chelsea taking the 2 nights away, not because she's going to a stick Airbnb, but because she is worthy of the 2 nights, because she's worthy of the time and the quiet and the solitude. So fitness is self-care. It is not punishment unless you overdo it, right? Nutrition should be self-care. You're literally nourishing your body. It should not be punishment. Sleep should be self-care. Napping, like prescription drugs if you need them, like whatever you need to enforce that loving discipline. Supporting your needs and valuing your worth. It's not indulgent, and it is fundamental to holistic health and wellness. Is the act of learning to identify and care for your physical and emotional wants and needs. Especially, it will be harder if they were denied in childhood. So, like, yeah, I know that all of us have kind of had conversations independently about things that you are placing judgments on, not because you think it's like bad, but because you were taught that it was not okay. Rock music, spending time alone, like having a pet gecko, I don't know, like whatever your caregivers were like, that's bad. Of course you're going to judge yourself because the people who provided safety to you told you it was not okay. Like, fair enough. But we're going to unlearn that and incorporate self-care in any of the ways that you guys are mostly like already doing. Meditating, moving your body, journaling, spending time alone, spending time in nature, feeling sun on you, connecting like with a person, like asking for a hug. All of those things are self-care. We can take a little detour, talk about sleep hygiene, because I honestly think that's one of the most critical aspects of self-care that is overlooked, sleep hygiene and stress. You guys are all making great like progress in on your sleep hygiene, but it can be simply going to bed a little earlier, turning off your phone 2 hours before bed. I've just been talking to a couple, like Chelsea, were we talking about this? Megan's been talking about this. Casey, like lots of us are talking about this. Stop, cutting out caffeine afternoon. Lots of you have evening routines. I'm happy to support you if you don't have one, but again, successful people have a routine and a structure. It improves your sleep hygiene and it sets you up to have your best sleep, which means you're going to wake up and you're going to eat better and you're going to work out at some point, right? Regulates your nervous system so you feel calm and relaxed and you can recover better. And you can include, these are all like self-care activities as well. But yeah, I really just encourage you to get more high quality sleep. It's like probably number one self-care wise. Excuse me. And the last pillar in reparenting is to rediscover your childlike sense of wonder. So this is combining creativity and imagination, playfulness, and spontaneity. How many of us could use more of all of those things? Right? I remember in the book that I referenced some of the other stuff from, Nicole LaPera, she said like, she doesn't have one single memory of her mom playing with her. And that's sad for her as a child, but it's also sad for her mom as an adult. Like, we need to still play. It's actually really good for us. In fact, the psychiatrist, this is the key to so many of my issues with the Chelsea or childlike sense of wonder. Jenna says, I used to hate being alone because I spent a lot of time alone as a teenager at the barn, but now that it's a choice that I have, I'm finding myself wanting to do more on my own. I love that reflection, Jenna. Yeah, like your body probably perhaps had a negative reaction to it because it's something that used to feel negative, and now you're taking your power back. I love that. But yeah, I think we're lacking in these areas. And the psychiatrist in this book he wrote about play called it a public necessity after he studied that the lack of play in the childhoods of young men who went on to commit homicide. So you need some more like incentive to play with your children, or like to let children play or to play as an adult, because it should be treated like malnutrition. It's a health risk to your body and mind. We need it as adults as well. And this is prioritizing things that bring you joy. So I know like working out doesn't always bring you guys joy, but it is an important part of self-care. But I want you to start to think about, yes, there are the things that have to get done, but there are also the things that like bring you joy and you don't have to do that other thing. Like I remember so many years ago, I just learned to go outside in the summer when it was sunny and leave the laundry because like it wasn't going to be sunny in Vancouver for the rest of the year. Like, and that is something I had to unlearn. and not for its secondary gain, not because it burns not dancing because it burns calories, and not like buying someone else groceries because you want to do that for them, but like not the secondary gain. Like what brings you joy? And I think most of us don't even know that, quite honestly. So it's a wonderful thing to reflect on. And my daughter showed me this video the other day, and I was like, this is it. This is like so what we're talking about. Can I make this bigger? Sweet. Does anyone watch Bluey? Oh my god, Bluey is this is trainer eyes. What's happening? Oh. Hold on, you guys can't see that, can you? I just love that video because I feel like that's so just what we all need to be doing. Instead of when the judgment comes up, right? And it's like, I can't. So I think that was just a beautiful example of play as so fun. So whether that is dancing for you or, I don't know, what brings you guys joy? Do you know? Chris, I know you love to dance. That's one for you. Jenna, I'm going to guess being outside or horses. Chelsea, oh, I know Chelsea loves to dance. Where'd the chat go? Where you at, Chelsea? I discovered many of my eating, drinking habits were searching for excitement, looking for fun and that sense of wow. Oh yeah. Because if I asked for a keyboard for Christmas and taught myself to play, oh my gosh, playing board games with my husband, love it. Yes. I love board games. Those are so good. Yeah. Like what brings you joy? Love it. Thank you for sharing that. Sunshine and bright colors. Yeah. Roberta, you're so artistic. Yes. I love that. Horses, outside, cats. I love it. I love music personally. Like I'm always listening to music, and I have my quiet time too. Like I walk in quiet, but music gets me going. I love to dance. Love it, you guys. So this is just my invitation to you to practice this reparenting, remembering that these shifts are small and they might feel silly, especially if you're implementing play and that's not normal for you, but small noticing is a neural exercise, showing your body and nervous system safety, and doing it enough builds those muscles, just like fitness. Please remember, however old you are, it took you this long to be parented and learn what you learned. And so now you're unlearning and it's going to take time. But as with any nervous system regulation or anything, I invite you to set an alarm on your watch or your phone and check in with yourself 4 or 5 times a day, maybe 3 every time you eat, scan your body, name the emotion, and do from this, anything that we've talked about, the practices, the tools that feel good for you, the F breath, shaking it out, yoga, and identify. I've invited you guys to do this before, but identify your top 3 or 5 self-protective behaviors. So for example, like Chelsea just said, her eating and drinking was like looking for excitement. I think a lot of the time, previously me included, like the scrolling is looking for connection when you're alone. So just noticing. And play with play, right? Like what brings you joy, the things that you just told me. Jamie says building stuff with your hands, like, okay, Jamie, that's so funny. I love that you love Lego, because I try to play Lego with my daughter and I'm like, I don't know what to do. Like, can I sort it into colors? That's what I want to do. So I love that you love, because I'm like, I can make a house, I can make a square house. That's it. And she's like making all sorts of things, like not my brain. So I love that we're wired differently. And then I really want you guys to watch yourself in action daily and notice when situations arise. Is this a fact that can be proven, or is this maybe an opportunity for reparenting? Is this maybe a shift that I can make? Can I reframe it? What does my inner child need right now? Rest, play, food, alone time, connection. Starting to tune in and ask. That's my invitation for you guys. What questions do you have?
Hello. I actually read that book that you were referencing a lot of, and it's just crazy to see the connections that you make, like with your own parents and your own family. But then I have a little girl, and like then the mirror back on that one, it's like just fascinating. And one of the things, like there's so many things to say, but one of the things that I'm realizing that I never really realized that I felt like when I was a kid was that I always felt like I was trying to prove myself and speak quick enough for people to hear my opinion, because I have a very big, bold older brother and stuff. And it was like, I'm here too. Hello, you know? And then what's interesting is when you fast forward, and then I've got my little one, my daughter, who is like, is my mother. I'm literally parenting my mother. But one thing that's super, super important to her is to like be heard, like all the way through, and like really understood. And I thought that was like a my mom trait thing. And you're like, no, wait a minute. That's what gets, I just deal with it different, but like that's actually my thing too. So it's fascinating.
It's totally fascinating. I love that you said
Yeah.
that. Yeah, everyone, our children, our parents, any person who you come into conflict with is a mirror reflecting something back to you, right? And I didn't used to get that, but yeah, you're so right, Chelsea. I was having this conversation. I have two good friends here who both have twins, and they're talking about all their like twin stuff, and we're all kind of talking about gentle parenting and getting a kick out of how like our kids are all like, all five of them are always like, oh, you're being mean, or like you're yelling. And we are like having this little, we're like, you don't even know yelling. Like, you don't even know how good you have it. Like, blah, 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 blah. And then I was kind of like, oh, like this has nothing to do with them. This is our trigger because we want to be validated for like how hard we had it. You know what I mean? So I was like,
Yeah.
that was a recent one that I had, which I feel like is
Yeah.
common, right?
Yeah. And the big emotions too, like how you can not, like a therapist that I was talking to said, because I was talking about my daughter and how like she's got big emotions. They're beautiful, they're fabulous, and they are heartfelt, but they are long and they are loud. Like,
Yeah.
and you're like, okay, hurry up. So I said, I think I do a really good job like managing and like letting her be heard. Like I definitely hold space for her. They're like, okay, that's good. It sounds like you deal with her emotions really well, but like how do you deal with your big emotions? And I was like, I don't have big emotions. What do you mean? Like, and they're like, oh, interesting. And I was like, yeah, no. Yeah.
Yeah, that's so, I feel like that's common too, is to like see it in our kids and be like, I don't have that problem.
Well, yeah, because in my family, it was like it was the like, move on, like, don't do that. So that's different than this family. Like, I have to fight myself like daily to be like, and I'm successful, I would say 81% of the time, of like, feel your feels, do your thing. But then there are definitely times where I falter and I'm like, okay, move on now. So then relating it back to me, you're like, oh my God, I don't know. I need to do more work on that.
Yeah, I love that awareness. So good. Anyone else? Or what did you guys get out of having a tantrum at the beginning? Did it shift you or feel extremely uncomfortable? All right, guys. Thanks for coming to my reparenting TED Talk. I couldn't pinpoint one thing, but I felt better after. And that's enough, Jenna. If you feel 1% better, that's a win, right? Don't worry about like, don't analyze it. Don't need to analyze it. Feeling better is good enough. Awesome. All right, you guys, have a great week. I love you, and I'll see you next time.
Thank you.
You're so welcome.